So today's objection handling. Today is Tuesday something, September 8th. We're going into the first of September. And like every day, we start with the fundamentals of what I deem as the fundamentals of objection handling. So number one is you can make up in skill where you lack in numbers. The better you are, the fewer people you have to talk to. Jim Rohn used to say that you can make up in numbers where you lack in skill. So when you're new and you're not that great, just go talk to a lot of people. I would prefer not talking to a lot of people and just converting more of the people that I talk to. So that's why we do this group, practice. The person who asks the questions controls the conversation. You know, telling is not selling. I think that we've all heard of that. So if you want to control the conversation, ask questions. Very rarely will you come across somebody else. Most people are not trained sales professional, or they may be sales professionals, but they don't practice, and they just throw up a bunch of information on people. It's not how you do things. You ask questions. You cannot change a person's perception or belief, only they can. That ties into asking questions. So has there ever been a time, think about it, has there ever been a time where a salesperson or anyone else was just telling you a bunch of things and it changed your point of view? Probably not. They have to ask you questions. You have to walk through that process in your mind by yourself. Only that way can you actually change a perception or belief. You don't have a lead until you know their why or when. So when you're starting at the very begin of a sales funnel, when you're prospecting, which is the very beginning, you don't have a lead until you know somebody's why and you know somebody's when. So take all the scripts aside, take all the objection handling aside, and look at the mission objective. When you're talking to someone, your key thing is to ask so many questions until you can discover their why and then their when. Their why might not be motivation. Their when might not be time, but at least you know that and you're not wasting any more time. And then the last one, when in doubt, mirror their objection as a question. If you come up, I do this on purpose. So whether I get taken sideways or not, strategically, if somebody asks me something, I will respond with a replying to their question as a question back to them. And what you'll find is that most people will voluntarily add more information into that. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So again, I take these objections from the ones that we're working in the role play group. So the first one that you guys are, for those of you that are on the schedule, that I'll be starting on today in about, 27 minutes, is will you reduce your commission? Boy, I'm sure no one's ever gotten that one before. So will you reduce your commission? Now you can either go do this a few different ways. I choose to be more of conversational, right? I'm a conversational salesperson. Some people will just go hardcore rebuttal. And will you reduce your commission? No. Do you have any more questions? I've tried that before. It didn't work for me, right? Because it leaves that person looking at you quiet, not knowing what to say, right? They have a legitimate concern, right? These guys are selling their house. Depending on the market that you're in, that reducing your commission equates to tens of thousands of dollars. And they're looking to get the best value out of the services that you provide. Now, if you guys have ever been in on my training on the value equation, value is a mathematical equation. It's what you pay divided by it's what you get divided by what you pay, right? So if you pay $1,000 and you get $1,000 of services, that's that the value is one time. But if you pay somebody $1,000 and you get $10,000 in value, well, perceived value, I should say, then, well, that's 10 times the value. So all they're doing, everybody is cost conscious. There's always a component to what you get and what you pay. So you have to accept that. It's not that these guys are being cheap. It's not that these guys are trying to just get a better deal. I think everybody's trying to get a better deal, but the definition of a better deal is much different for one person than the other, right? So will you reduce your commission? The first question you need to ask, just like everything, well, actually, first of all, you need to acknowledge what they say, right? Okay, will I reduce my commission? That's a great question, okay? I acknowledged what they said. I could even go a little bit deeper and I can deflect it. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that's really a great question. I can honestly say that most homeowners that I speak with have a concern for the commission, right? So now the key here though is you want to flip it onto them. You don't want to, now you set the stage. Most of you are going in at 6% commission. Some of you are going in at 7% commission. Some of you are going at 5%, right? The national average in the United States, just so you guys know, the average commission rate is 5%, 2.5 points per side. Now, there's probably downward pressure coming onto that because most markets are hot. And when it's a hot seller's market, the perceived value of an agent is lower. So I'm excited to go into a shifting market when things get a little bit tougher, not just because people start getting out of the business, but because the perceived value in the eyes of the consumer increases, the perceived value of the agent increases, right? The bigger the problem, the more you're worth. If you can sell a home in 10 minutes after listing it, is that the market or is that you? Chances are that's the market. But when things get really, really tough, and let's say that we go into a shifting market and you start chasing the market down, whoa, time is of the essence. Your value increases exponentially if you position yourself right. Now, going back to this, will you reduce your commission? You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's a really great question. Let me ask you a question first. Do you feel that I have the experience and the track record to sell your home? Okay, you want to get the pre-qualification out of the way. Okay, what you're doing is you're honing in to make sure that this is their only objection. Now, if you have not talked about your value yet and they've only talked to you and the first thing out of their mouth is you know, will you reduce your commission? I'm framing this like we're sitting at the kitchen table or we're on a Zoom call and we're doing a listing presentation. And so that's where I'm framing this. So will you reduce your commission? Mr. and Ms. Seller, that's a really great question. If you don't mind me asking, remember, that's a softener. If you don't mind me asking, do you feel that my credentials, my experience, my track record, do you feel that I'm the best qualified agent to sell your home, money aside? Do you think that? Now, if they say no, that takes your conversation into the value of what you're providing. If they say yes, then you say, okay, terrific. I feel the same way. Now, my whole focus on the commission I charge is based on my years of experience and the thousands of homes that I've sold, but I want to be fair. Okay, remember guys, key is being fair. If you're someone who doesn't want to be fair, you might be in the wrong profession. You got to be fair. Everybody wants to be fair. Nobody wants to feel like they're not being treated fair. Nobody wants to feel like they're treating someone unfair. Okay, so by you bringing up that term and actually framing that as a key component of the conversation, subconsciously you're making the prospect feel the same way, right? Because they want to be fair. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the fee that I charge is based on my years of experience, and I feel that it's fair for the services I provide. Do you feel that same way? Ooh, now you have them. Because now they're either going to answer, yes, I do feel it the same way, or no, I don't feel it the same way, or they're going to say, yes, I do feel it's the same way, but I know that commissions are fully negotiable. And your response is, absolutely, they're negotiable. I've heard some of the people say, you could pay more. I don't find that funny. I think that if you're talking to somebody about their largest investment, it might work for you. It might work for your personality. It might work for their personality. But if you guys don't have matching personalities, you don't have rapport, then chances are, if you say absolutely that they're negotiable, you want to pay 7, 8, 9, 10, then it's not going to come out as humorous. It's going to come out condescending, and and there's a good chance that you might kill your chances of getting that listing. So I would personally stay away from that. It's funny, yes, but if you don't get the listing, the joke's on you. So will you reduce your commission? The seller says, yes, I do feel you're worth that, but I also feel that commissions are negotiable. Absolutely, commissions are negotiable. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we just talked about you saying that I am the right person to sell your home. Am I right? Yes, you are. Okay, so with that being the case, is the only thing that we need to talk about is the compensation structure. If we can solve the compensation structure, do you feel that you're ready to actually hire me to sell your home today? Whoa, silence. Okay. Yes, Brett, if we can figure this out, then we would most definitely hire it. Or no, Brett, we still have other people that we need to hire. We're going to go down the yes route. Okay. So you feel that I'm qualified to sell your home. It's just the commission. So let me ask you something. What is it that you feel would be fair given my credentials? Okay, you're being very soft, but you're putting it back into their court. Okay, what you're saying is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've sold everything in your area. Okay, I've been in the business for over 20 years. Now you have to angle this to be your value proposition, right? You better not walk into it not knowing the strength of your value proposition and not knowing the weaknesses of your value proposition. If you're new and you don't have a whole lot of transactions behind you, you may have to weigh more heavily onto your company. If you're new and you're with a no-name company, you need to figure out what makes your value special for the fee that you're charging, right? Because where you lack in value, the only thing that you can where you lack in the things that you come to the table with, the only way you can increase value is by lowering the commission. That's why you see a lot of these low price leaders, right? They can't compete on what they provide. They can only compete on the lower price. You know, Walmart versus Saks kind of deal. So will you reduce your commission? What is it that you feel is fair? Well, we feel that it's fair. We just want to see if you would be willing to come down. Oh, so you feel that it's fair for the service I do and the experience, but you still want me to discount my commission or the fee that I charge? Quiet. Notice how I just rephrased that as a question back to them, because now they're going to start talking. They'll probably talk themselves right out of it if your value proposition is strong enough. Now, if your value proposition isn't strong enough, you need to go back to the drawing table and make sure your value proposition is strong enough. And the way that you do that is research your competition. Find out what the top guys doing in their market on what they're providing. Make sure you provide at least that and then some. Okay, that's how you actually get the higher commissions. Or depending on your model, you might want to give the same or more and then reduce it. You know, one of the things that you can do, so I'll tell you what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm so confident that I can get your home sold in the time frame that you want and for the price that you want, that if I don't do it within the next 60 days or if I don't do it within the next 30 days, then I will reduce the commission by 1%, right? Would that be fair? Right, so really what you did is you did a performance guarantee. Is I'm going to sell your home, it's going to be closed and done with within the next 2 months, or I'm going to reduce the commission. Or you can guarantee that, or, you know, if I don't sell it within this next 2 months, then what we'll do is that you and I will revisit this subject, we'll revisit the value proposition, we'll revisit the action plan, we'll revisit the marketing plan in addition to the compensation structure. Now, depending on what market that you're in, if you're in Southern California, you haven't sold the home and it's been more than 60 days, it's overpriced. That's just the truth of it. Okay. Ooh, 844. Okay, guys, so that's how you work with will you reduce your commission. Now, working with this, there are several different scenarios, right? You might be prospecting and first thing out of their mouth, this might come up. You might be in the listing pre-qualification and this might come up. You might be coming up in a listing presentation and this objection will come up. And depending on the action that you're in, depending on where they're at within your sales funnel, will be directly related to how you respond to this. You and I, we all just talked about how we do it at a listing presentation. I want to move on to the next one so we can actually work on the next objection. But you know, really focus on, if you're prospecting and this comes up, how are you going to respond to that? Right? I can tell you how I would respond to it, and I would love to walk you guys through on it, but you got to do it to where you're comfortable and you guys are confident. Okay, so we're going to move on to that. The next objection. I'm not ready to commit to an agent. I'm not ready to commit to an agent. This isn't something that comes up very often. I do get a lot of people who are non-committal, But you also have to look at the scenario here, right? Why are they non-committal, right? That's the first thing that you have to ask. Are you guys getting a trend here? You know, everything that I come up to is like the terrible twos. Why? That's an interesting, that's a real interesting statement. Why is it that you're not ready to commit to a real estate agent? It's a legitimate question. You can't go any further until you know somebody's why, right? Why are you moving? There's no point in there is no point in trying to sell your service to sell a home until you know why they're moving and when they're moving. When you get this objection, I'm not ready to commit to an agent. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that's very interesting. If you don't mind me asking, why is it that you're not ready to commit to an agent? Okay, now that's going to hopefully reveal, you might have to go another level deep, that might show what their true objection is, right? Maybe it's, I've worked with an agent for the last 60 days. They didn't sell my house, so they didn't do a really good job, and I think I could probably do a job better. There's an objection, right? It's a different objection, right? This, I'm really not to commit to an agent. That's a blow off, right? You got to find out their why, and then you got to find out their when. Okay, why? Well, we have some time. I don't have to move for another 4 months, and I figured for the next 30 days, I would try it on my own. Oh, okay, so you would like to try it on your own for the first 30 days before you would be willing to consider committing to an agent. Not saying that you're committing to an agent. I'm just saying that you're going to give it 30 days before you would consider committing to an agent. Yeah, I want to give it 30 days. Okay, now the next question would be when, but in that statement, they said that they want to try it for 30 days because they don't have to move for a period in the future, right? So they want to try it on their own. So now you have their why, and now you have the when. You have the two pieces of information that you need in order to frame a strategy. Okay, now the next strategy going with this one is I'm not ready to commit to an agent. If you don't mind me asking, Mr. and Ms. Seller, why is it that you're not ready to commit to an agent? Well, because I don't have to move for 6 months. I don't have to be where I'm going to be for the next 6 months. So I'm going to try it for the first 30 or 45 days on my own. Oh, okay. So you have some time and you don't have to be where you're going to be for, however long. And you want to try it on your own and see if maybe you can save on the commission. Does that sound about right? Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. So have you considered whether or not you will pay a real estate commission if in fact a real estate agent were to bring you a buyer? Notice how he didn't say right? I'm deflecting. Are you willing to pay a real estate commission to a real estate agent that brings you a buyer that buys it? Well, yes, I am definitely open to that. Okay, and have you given much thought on what that rate would be? Well, I don't know. It's all negotiable. Absolutely, it is negotiable. But do you have a starting point of where you'd want to be? Right? Traditionally, in our market, it's anywhere between 2.5%, 3%, some even 3.5% for those motivated people. Have you given much thought on how much you would pay? Well, I'd at least be willing to pay 2.5%. Okay, 2.5%. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, did you know that I actually work in this business? I've been working in this area for about 20 years now. I actually sold the Jones's house down on Elm Street. Do you know that house? No, I'm showcasing my knowledge. Yeah, I sold that about a month and a half ago. Really great house. We had multiple offers on it, and I'm working with some buyers. So look, I would like to see if perhaps one of my buyers would be interested in your property, but I have a thing that I won't show a property if I haven't previewed it first. I don't want to waste my buyer's time, and I most definitely don't want to waste your time. So is there a time this week that I could schedule a time just to come over for 5 or 10 minutes just to preview the property? Would that be okay with you? Okay, notice what I did, guys. A lot of your competition who are going after these types of agents, number one is a lot of low-skilled real estate agents are starting to go after expireds and for sale by owners, right? This is kind of framing it into kind of an expired and for sale by owner scenario. And because of that, their annoyance level is going to be increased. I mean, think about it. If 30 people called you before 8 o'clock and it's only 8:15 and they called you, 30 people, your annoyance level is going to get pretty high. So the key here is you don't want to be another one of those people. You want to go and preview the property. Number one, if you're a real estate agent and you're in the market and you're selling houses, you need to know what's going on. and there's information that you get by previewing a property than just by looking at a property, right? Number two, having that face-to-face communication, being able to have that chance to build the rapport and take a look at that property is going to give you 1,000,000 times more chances of getting that listing if in fact they put it on the market and they choose an agent 30 to 45 days. I think we can all agree that if you meet someone face-to-face, that the chances of them remembering you than the million other people that are calling them on the phone or sending them mail, you have a better chance of doing that. So that's the key is I'm not ready to commit to an agent. The first objection is, okay, that's interesting. If you don't mind me asking, why are you not ready to commit to an agent? Okay, why are you selling this home, right? There's a lot of whys that you have to do to actually come up with the key objection. So what time do we got here? Time check, 8:51. So my goal here, guys, is we kind of continue to move forward with the objection handling. You'll notice that my style is more conversational and it's more based on fundamentals, and it's not based on just focusing on the words that you're going to say. Because some of the words that I'm going to say will not work with the way that you deliver them, and some of the words that you say will not work with the way that I deliver them. So you got to work these out. If you're going to go on a listing presentation, if you're going to go on a prior presentation, pre-qualify these guys, get to know their whys, multiple whys. Why are they moving? Why are they not ready to commit to an agent? Why are they still shopping around, right? Find out their when. But it's not just the words that you say, right? Like, I'm not ready to commit to an agent. Why do you want to commit to an agent, right? I mean, that's logical. And then get that, it's all about having a conversation. Imagine that you're your friend. Imagine that there's someone you grew up with. Imagine you're just casually having a conversation. And I think that's what happens is that when you're talking to someone who you don't know, you have this innate fear that you don't want to say something that's off base or off color. But if you really focus on the conversation that you would have with someone that you're comfortable with, like if your friend came up to you, hey, I'm not really ready to commit to an agent. Okay, why? Well, and then they kind of go through with that. Okay, 8:52. We have a bunch of people on. Does anybody have any questions? Cecilia, I see you're on. Shazi, welcome. Looks like we have a few people that came on, but anybody have any questions that I could go over with you guys? Hold down the space bar to turn it into a walkie-talkie.
What else can I tell to a client that is thinking about selling because he thinks it's the highest market, just like you told us the last time? It's the best opportunity to sell his home at the highest price, but he says he wants to wait. I told him if he waits, it's not going to be the right timing.
Well, one thing that you should do on that, Cecilia, is Mr. Seller, I totally understand that you want to net the most money for your house. I get it. In fact, you and I are on the same page. I want to net you the most money for your house. But if you don't mind me asking, why is it that you feel that your home is worth more than every other home that's selling within the area and that's comparable to your property, right? Remember, you cannot change a person's belief or perception, only they can, right? So if you're just telling them that it's overpriced, why? You actually have to literally walk them through the fundamentals. It's like learning, my little girl's 8, she's now in 3rd grade and she's starting multiplication. And it's a lot like math. You have to walk them through the process of letting them come to their own aha moment, right? Now, the talk track I just saw a core value insight. Like the defaults nationally are ridiculous. So there's a lot of pent up stuff that's coming up that is going to come down, not tomorrow, not next week. This pent on these forbearance and these deferments, they're building up. Well, when they build up and they start hitting, that's going to be downward pressure on the market, right? So there's a bunch of questions that you can ask Cecilia. So one of which is, why do you feel your home's worth? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you feel that given that this is an election year, that it's probably better to sell before an election or after an election, right? I think most people would say before election. If they say after an election, say that's interesting. Most people say that it's before an election because, you know, the powers that be don't want any major changes before the election that could skew party lines. So why do you feel that it's worth more afterwards, right? But Cecilia, you need to come back into the fundamentals of their belief system, right? In most markets, in your market, I know where you're at. In most markets, prices are the highest they've ever been in recorded time, right? I know that's true in Orange County. It surpassed the 2008 peak, 2007 peak, way back when. So the probability of selling your home right now is that you'll get the highest price known to man ever. Now, then you go into the other side. This is where you have to ask those questions. Find out what their belief system is. Share with them that there are very, very smart people on one side saying that it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, but yet there are really, really, really smart people that believe the opposite. One of them are going to be wrong. Do you want to gamble? Do you want to take a 50-50 gamble? Remember, the words that I choose are very specific. 100% probability now, do you want to take a 50-50 gamble on the equity of your house? If you're right, then you'll probably get about the same amount of money as you get right now. Maybe a little bit, maybe a few extra bucks more, maybe a few bucks extra, but overall, probably not much same. But if you're wrong, and all these foreclosures and all these deferments and the evictions get unloaded and they start foreclosing on people and they get rid of unemployment and they get rid of, you know, the Federal Reserve starts printing money and interest rates go up. And then what that's going to do is make the real estate market just go. Do you want to take that gamble? Notice how I did that like an infomercial, right? I went I'm like, hey, this is the good thing. You might be right. You might get an extra bucks. But if you're wrong and this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, then, I mean, it's a risk. So do you want to take 100% probability now or do you want to take a 50-50 gamble? What would be the best choice for you? Well, Cecilia, how much do you think I should sell it for? Well, you know, it's not really up to me. It's really up to the market. So let's go back and look at this. Let's look at the homes that are selling. Let's look at the competitions on the market and let's come up together to where you feel comfortable with the price that we actually sell it for, right? Because you don't want to make that decision, Cecilia, because of the simple fact that if you're wrong and you get that price reduction and it still doesn't sell, well, now that's going to make it even harder, right? Does that help you?
Yes. I love
Perfect.
it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. So any other questions? I think someone just chimed in.
Yes, I did. I do. I have questions for you, Brad. This is Carmen.
Hey, Carmen.
Really quick, two-part questions. One is, you know, that which you mentioned about face-to-face. Is, you know, is most, I mean, I'm talking about agents are out there door knocking on, you know, expire and then face-to-face, or they call?
So I would not, first of all, you text me like last week, didn't you?
Yes,
and I didn't, I'm sorry. I didn't get that until over the weekend because it goes through the system and it didn't alert me. So I'll call you. I have a meeting after this, but I'll call you this morning.
Good.
So here's the thing. I'm not recommending that people go door knocking. And the reason why is because I think it's completely out of taste and it ties right into you're more concerned about being a salesperson than the safety of me and my family, right? Mm-hmm. So there are 3 traditional activities that people can do traditionally before COVID. You have telephone prospecting, you have door knocking, you have open houses.
Right.
Those are, and you have marketing, right? Digital marketing. I'm actually going to be coming up with some training on the digital side because I think that's where a lot of people are. I think a lot of people need help on their skills, but I think a lot of people need help on getting a digital strategy going too. Right. But COVID has eliminated the open house to a certain degree, and it has also eliminated the door-to-door stuff. Mm-hmm. So really you got telephone prospecting, right? So you got to really look at what it is that you're doing. So when you get somebody on the phone, and this is typically probably best to do with an expired listing, not an expired listing, I'm sorry, a for sale by owner, which there's not many in our market, but there are some. Mm-hmm. The key focus is not trying to sell them for an appointment, right? the key is to go and look at the property, because our job as real estate professionals, as part of it, is to know market knowledge, right? And you can't know about a house. You really don't know about a house simply by looking at it online. You really don't, right? So use that to go and schedule a time to do a face-to-face if you can. It's challenging, right? There's pros and cons to what COVID did. Number one is that only serious and pre-qualified buyers are walking physically through a house. The negative side is that, it's a good way to actually generate additional sell business moving forward. But to that as well is one of the things that I see that a lot of real estate agents lack is their digital strategy. And it's a digital strategy. Yes, everybody has Facebook. Yes, everybody has LinkedIn. There's a lot of things that everybody does. But it's the content creation that they're missing in a very hyper-local area, right? So the key here, not to get too far off base because I'm known to do that, the key here is to try to do what you can to get face-to-face, to go and preview the property. If you can't do that, try to fall back onto something that would cause it to do a face-to-face. Drive by. One of the things that I encourage agents to do, you can't preview property anymore, but you can most definitely drive by it and record driving by it, and then take the other half and do a walkthrough with your screen share, right? Go through a 3D, go through the video, go through the pictures, something like that, and then make sure that you can figure out a way to get it in front of the seller so you can amplify how much you know about the market. So that's kind of like an onion that I just did. Now we're going to start peeling an onion, because we can be on the phone for days for that one. Did that answer your question though?
Yeah, you did. But I still need to talk to you, if you have a chance later.
Yeah. Let me get done with my meeting, then we'll go. So guys, I got 9:02. At least I'm consistently always going late on these. So tune in next on Thursday. We're going to go over this again. We're going to go over the rest of those. Thanks for showing up, and you guys have an awesome day. Take care.